Yesterday, we had a wonderful 6 sessions wandering all over the world from Alaska to Japan to Australia to Russia. And I'm sure today is going to be an equally interesting session. I will now move on to the moderator for the next session, which is on Toy Train to the Clouds by David Charlesworth. The moderator is Sanjay Mukherjee, a professional railwayman. Sanjay Mukherjee retired from service as a member of the Indian Railways Board as the latter's financial commissioner. Holding various key positions on the Indian Railways, he was always keen on rail heritage and was instrumental in setting up the a very well appointed rail museum at Tinsukia in the northeast of the country when he was the divisional railway manager there. He is currently the head of the East and Northeast chapter of the Rail Enthusiast Society and the main force behind its activities and success. He has authored a number of books, most of them rail based. I have read all of them. He contributes regularly to the Society's magazine. Over to you, Mr. Sanjay Mukherjee.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you very much for the introduction. Good morning, everybody. Today, I have great pleasure in introducing David Charlesworth, my friend. David is an industry-trained English fine arts artist, designer, and author with a wide portfolio, including graphic designs, illustrations, and cartoons. He is specially acclaimed for his paintings and drawings of transport and historical subjects. He is also regularly commissioned for portraits and book illustrations. David's paintings on the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway have invited special interest amongst railway enthusiasts in India and abroad. David has been fascinated by India and all his life, as his grandfather was in India and Burma during the Second World War and brought and photographs from Darjeeling. Since his first visit to Darjeeling in 1986, he's been actively involved with the railway. He visits Darjeeling Hills at least once a year and considers himself very fortunate to have so many friends in India. He was a co-founder of the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway Society in the United Kingdom and has just completed editing 113 issues of their magazine, the Darjeeling Mail. These volumes are now recognized as highly prized sources of historical reference. The most exciting development this month is the publication of the children's storybook on DHR called Baby Sivok. This is done by the Foothills Publishing in Siliguri. The idea is to drive new interest in the DHR from the younger generation. Today, David Charlesworth will be speaking on the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway, the first railway in Asia to obtain the UNESCO inscription. His talk is entitled Toy Train. Over to you, David.
Thank you for the introduction, Sanjoy. I hope I can live up to the expectations. Let's just see if we can share the screen.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, we're ready. Okay, lovely. So hopefully you can all see my my intro screen. Of course, our audience today needs no introduction to the Darjeeling Railway. And this intro slide of mine is of the monastery just below Goom and Batasia Loop. I confess to not taking this picture as I've never had the time to make the journey around Gandhi Road. But I love this picture. It shows the true scale of the railway and why, sometimes unfairly, it's known as the toy train. You can see it just at the bottom edge of the screen below the wall. It's a toy train in name, but in work it does an extremely big, serious train job. And this is why we love the DHR. It's exciting in that it can place us in a world that has gone from everywhere else. This is one of my other paintings from a view outside the tourist lodge in Kurseong. And this is used as prints for sale by Das Studios in Darjeeling. Das Studios have been friends to me and the Darjeeling Society for over 25 years. In fact, my grandfather bought photographs from Das Studios in 1943, and hence my original knowledge and interest in the railway. And if you're prepared to pay, you can do this. Arrange a freight charter. This is one at Dillaram. The van's restored after pressure from the DHRS some years ago and have proved a great asset, though I do not know quite where the vans are at the moment. This picture is by the late John Clemens, who took great lengths to get classic photographs, even by stopping the traffic while the train came through and he got a perfect shot. The DHR is simply iconic. This is 786 at Darjeeling, taken from the steps near the shed by Sam Dixon. To the railway enthusiast, and this is what I find is important, to the railway enthusiast, a view like this in the 21st century is absolute magic because it's not strictly a preserved railway. This is a working railway still. It does a job. It transports people.
David, just let me know the next. Okay, so I know what.
Oh, sorry, are you running?
Yeah.
Are you running the show?
Yeah, can you see the correct screen now?
I've got. I'm looking at my screen. I'm on Gita Pahar.
Yeah, correct. So whatever you want me to change the screen, just let me know next.
Okay, sorry,
yeah,
I didn't realize you were running it. I was running it from this side.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So this is shows the wonder of the DHR. This is a landscape from Gita Pahar on the 8th of November in 2005. It's a remarkable view, I think, captured by Peter Jordan. Two NDM6 haul trains are visible. The up train is approaching Upper Pagdajora and the down train is heading for Lower Pagdajora. The village on the ridge in the centre is Mahanadi. Again, it shows the magnificent scale of the train in the huge landscape. Next picture. This is the wonderful view from the train at Gita Pahar, just a further along the line, showing the alternative or the shortcut route down to Gayabari. Bangladesh is way over on the horizon. Next slide. The beginning for the DHI is New Jalpaiguri, which was built on a totally greenfield site and opened in 1961. The station is absolutely huge and is the arrival station for trains from all areas, including the overnight Darjeeling Mail from Howrah, which continues from here to Aldibari, its destination since the turn of the century. The original and more direct route from Seldar was through what is now Bangladesh, and of course, as most of us know, that is the story of the Assam Rail Link in 1950. Next slide. When it's possible, start your journey at NJP. These steps to nowhere, however, led to the DHR platforms in 2003, when the station was converted to broad gauge. Now, there was no reason to do this, but NFR decided that DHR south of Siliguri Junction did not have to be kept, and it was not part of the World Heritage site. And this view was supported actually by a few senior people within Indian Rails and NFR who we actually thought were supporters of the World Heritage Site. However, it was very soon proved that the UNESCO listing did indeed cover this section, and it was in great haste and frustration that it was relayed to a new station 100 yards away from the main platforms. This still remains a most inconvenient affair that causes timing problems to this day. Next slide. And this is the new station at Jalpaiguri. Well, new, it was built in 2003. I still refer to it as the new one. On the site of what were the meter gauge sidings. And it is a good long walk for the mainline platforms. The DHR train is often late from this point. And as the first train in the day, I often don't understand why. But it is actually to do with timings having to cross the broad gauge twice. Next slide. Now this view is from the train on a down train returning to NJP, and you can see the sort of hastily laid track that is still there today, the short safety siding and the crossover. This is looking back towards NJP. So the main line ahead on the broad gauge was the old direct route to Calcutta Seldar up to 1950. And the DHR this time, of course, did not extend this far, which is why it was thought that it didn't have to be kept as far as the original railway. Next slide. We're having to run fairly quickly because we have a 50-mile railway to cover in 40 minutes. Having just crossed the river Jorpandi and running over an hour late already, this is the first train of the day with behind 601 in around, I think it was 2018 when I picked that up these pockets. What was a surprise to me, in actual fact, having walked this, was that there was a razor wire on top of the wall on the right-hand side. I've never actually seen that on the railway before. Next slide. Bhagat Singh crossing between Siliguri town and NJP, looking back towards NJP. This section was meter gauge until 1927. It was broad gauge from 1927 to 1949, then back to meter gauge in 1950 until 1962, and from 2003 it is back to broad gauge. And I just love how busy these crossings are. Siliguri town station, the old station, is behind me, and it was the terminus for the main line from Calcutta until 1950. And Siliguri Old Town Station is thought to have had more gauge changes than any station in the world. And with that number, it must be right. Next slide. The track side here, alongside the DHR, the broad gauge off to my left, is home to a large number of people in Old Siliguri. Unfortunately, 130 metres further along to the old station, the site has become rather disgusting, I'm sad to say. Next slide. Now this, tragically, is the old Siliguri town station, a historic site and a very important historic site, but it is now locally known as the Siliguri toilet. We are hoping something can be done because its loss is a huge tragedy. Worth noting that from 1958 to 1972, British Railways in the UK were still owned by the government, and we destroyed 2,800 architecturally and historically significant stations and buildings in England and around the UK. Unforgivable, really, and we do regret it now. But the responsibility of this site cannot be entirely in the hands of the railway. The local municipality really has to take some role in getting this sort of site cleaned up. This area, although it's the Darjeeling station and the Darjeeling track, this level of deterioration can't be left in the hands of the railway. That's not quite fair. Next slide. In happier days, a B-class hauls a charter train out of the station and heads towards Siliguri Junction. The new station is some 200 yards in the distance and means that stops at this station, Siliguri Old Town, is for special charters only, and they're very rare now and never ever steam hauled. The reason for this is electrification of the main line, which should not be a problem really. The Darjeeling Mail, I published a photograph of the famous Flying Scotsman, a standard gauge locomotive, running under the wires in the UK on a special train. In the 1960s, when steam locomotives were still very common in Britain and electrification was in progress, locomotives carried warning signs and there were posters on locomotive sheds to warn crew of the dangers of climbing off the footplate underneath the overhead 25 kilovolt wires. So it can be done, it has been done, but for the moment, all steam south of Siliguri Junction is banned. Next slide. Moving on, we leave old Siliguri and squeeze through the market. Charter trains usually catch the local shoppers and the storeholders by surprise. Charters are not in the normal timetable, which they know well. The 200, it causes absolute chaos, but it's fun to watch. The 2005 flyover is behind me, the photographer. And officials cleared this site about 20 years ago, claiming that the people were intruding on the UNESCO buffer zone, which I and certainly members of the society didn't fully agree with. It is locations like this that make and help make the DHR so special. Not just the landscape, it's how close the railway is to the people. And it's views like this that really excite overseas enthusiasts. We never see anything like this. anywhere else. And to experience it on the DHR is absolutely magnificent. Next slide. The dual carriageway flyover is just above us.
Yeah, sorry.
Very likely used. But the crossings, and there are two of these, is as busy as ever. I'm standing on the single broad gauge track. The DHR track is over to the right-hand side. Sadly, what we have lost here is a most remarkable road rail crossing. From one cabin, 4 barriers controlled by an elaborate system of pulleys and wires controlled all 4 barriers. Despite requests for over 20 years to save some of this equipment for the museum, nothing's been done. But the majority of it still exists underground, but it was a wonderful sight to see at the time. Next slide. Siliguri Junction DHR station, opened in 1950 as Siliguri North, but this also meant the decline for the old station we've just been looking at had actually begun. From this time onwards, the Siliguri Old Town station was not the prime station. Next slide. A B-class locomotive at Siliguri Junction. There are no steam locomotives available here, and the steam locomotive engineers available here now. So locomotives needed for steam charters are brought down from Darjeeling. At the moment, there are no steam locomotives at Siliguri Junction. Now, I'm sure this is not a permanent measure, so hopefully we can get some training done for the staff and return locomotives to the bottom end of the line. Next slide. Moving on quickly. The fish market, a good location for photographers. The whole line is exciting from a photographer's point of view. The photography opportunities are non-stop. Next slide. Now this is the original Pinch Bridge. Panch and I, we describe it as the Pinch Bridge because everything going to Darjeeling had to cross this bridge. This was about 2005. The new road bridge is just being built on the left-hand side and are now being replaced by a huge girder bridge. If we move to the next slide quickly, that's the scene about 8 years later. The construction work visible here has now been finished, but very clearly you can see that Siliguri has now reached Panchanai, that our rural bridge and our rural community has disappeared. It is now part of Siliguri. Next slide. This is Salbari, photographed from the roof of a Darjeeling Tours chase bus in 2005. Climbing onto the bus rack was started in 1999 by my 13-year-old daughter Lauren and myself on one of Peter Jordan's first ever society charters. And that became a feature of Darjeeling Tours from then onwards. However, one has to keep a very close eye for overhead wires when you're sat using the top of the bus as a camera platform. And also bear in mind that in many cases your travel insurance is void if you fall off doing that. Now this time, along this section of Salbari and Dalpur, you could relax at a table, have a coffee on the left-hand side and wait for the trains to come. The DHR, the Hillcart Road now is much, much busier and views like this are almost impossible. The traffic is packed almost around the clock. So the relaxed attitude from 20 years ago has now changed. Next slide. Hard to believe that this section, a few miles further on, just approaching Sukna, that this section was once considered quite a dangerous area. The village here was known as Polkai Hat, which apparently means insects and hat meaning the market, because at that time there were swarms of insects at 4 o'clock every day. It was never considered a good name, and so in 1956 locals changed it to Salbari because of sal trees. If you're looking for Salbari, note that there's a Salbari town about 72 miles east of here. The road has been upgraded considerably on this section now. It is virtually a main highway. Next slide. Approaching Sukna. This position is the junction for the Rohini Road. Next slide. And Sukna Station. This was once a very common scene anywhere in India, but now gathering unburnt coal is probably seen just on the Darjeeling line. And to the mid-1990s, there were extensive interchange sidings where the garden is on the left-hand side behind the fencing. Sutton was fully restored in 2001 under DHRS guidance and local architects. And the building was fully restored, returned to stone colour, exactly matching the original. But a few years later, with a change of management, it was repainted pink with a green roof. Historical documents were destroyed to make room for an internet cafe, which is now also gone. And we're always bothered by the frequent changes of management because people have new ideas. But you know, these things happen. Next slide. Still at Sutton, this is a very large oil painting of mine, which I've commissioned to do. It's an imaginary scene from the 1940s. And this is where art can do a job. We can recreate scenes that there are no photographs of. This is a very large painting, about 1 metre by 1.5 metres, and it caused me a lot of anxiety trying to get the angle and lighting right. Interestingly, a set of cylinders for these C-class locomotives were found at Tindaria a few years ago. There's no trace of them now. Unfortunately, both these locomotives still exist. Both C-class locomotives exist in museums. So maybe there's hope that one day they could be restored. It's, you know, if these were in the UK, of course, they probably would have been by now. But there's hope. They still exist. Next slide. Just above Sutton and entering the forest, I walked along this section, particularly in 2018, to the horror of my good friend, a local man called Prashem. When I insisted that I had to do it again and walk down this section, he asked God to protect us because you know, full of spiders, snakes, wild elephants, Bengal, all things are there. And I have to admit that walking on these sections, you do take extra care. Next slide. Still in the forest, above Sutton, less green now as this is February. The line pulls away from the road at this point, one of the few places where it actually does. The road being over to the right. I'm now certain that this section was where the old forest siding used to be. It took years to locate its place. Next slide. As we all know, the road and rail intertwine constantly. There are over 120 level crossings like this on the line. Next slide. And you're now passing through the Mahanadi Wildlife Sanctuary, as the signs all clear tell you. This was in 2005, but nothing has changed except that steam now can only pull one coach. And again, we're hoping that under Mr. Chowdhury, we can get something done about this. Next slide. Looking back, this is a lost scene. There are several lost locations. This is the old loop number 1 on the 11th of February 87, situated about a kilometre before Rangtong Station. This loop was lost in 1991 with the monsoon and not replaced. It's marked now by a slight rise in the line, so it actually gains a bit more height than it did with the loop and has to drop down to the side. You could at one point locate the old tunnel for this, but that's now long gone. Without a guide, you'd never find the location. Next slide. Photography and paintings, it's all about the light. And if you get it right, the photo opportunities, I keep repeating, the photo opportunities are absolutely endless. Next slide. Having passed the site of the old loop number 1, we reached Rantong, a very beautifully and well restored station in the forest. The main line's on the left hand side, and this is where the trains normally stop. The siding that I'm standing on is seldom used now, but was the loading area for tea. The canopy that remains is only about a third of what used to be, which was removed about 2000. Some years ago, DHRS funded the supply of a set of sewing machines for local people and the workshop in the village, and it became very, very successful. Next slide. Still at Rangtong, for a few years, Darjeeling Tours ran a dining train from Siliguri to Rangtong in the evenings. This one was in 2013, but they were very, very exciting. Listening to the B class blast its way through the night, through the forest, was a wonderful experience. Next slide. These are the water tanks just above Rangtong and a bridge that I've seen replaced many, many times through washouts. Getting pictures like this is why visitors chase the train with a car. Wonderful to travel on it, but also you want the record. You want to take photographs like this. We used cars. I did use a motorbike once, which wasn't as successful as I thought it was, but great fun. Next slide. Tumbati Loop. This loop is a perfect example of what we describe as a railway only when a train passes. Until then, the track is basically an extension of the home. You put your dining table out there, you have picnics on it, hang out your washing, dry laundry, obviously. It's only a railway when a train passes. Next picture. Now, if you're prepared to pay, you can do this. Another freight charter. This one was organised by a German group who, actual fact, turned out to be quite their leader turned out to be quite unfriendly when other photographers, including local people, were trying to take photographs of it. Proper freight, normal freight on the DHR actually stopped in 1987, but with these preserved wagons, we can recreate the scene. Next slide. We don't have time to cover the full story, but this is Tindaria Works in February 2005. Minor slips are clearly visible. Next slide. But this we never expected to happen. This was the major slip in 2011, which was devastating. It closed the whole railway as a through route for 5 years. And those of us looking from overseas, we were really convinced this could be the end of the railway as a through route. Fortunately, we were wrong. It took 5 years, as I say. Next slide. But they fixed it. This spectacular retaining wall now supports the road and the edge of the railway. And if you didn't know about it, travelling along the route, you would think it had never ever happened. This is a spectacular piece of engineering. Next slide. Oh yes, this is the steep bit, tackling the run up towards Tindaria. That's Tindaria shed over on the right hand side, but it was still operational when this photograph was taken in 1999. Sadly, it is now collapsing, and we're hoping that plans will be set up to try and do something about that. Next slide. At the time, this was a most welcome and unbelievable sight. It was a train bringing the empty coaching stock to Tindaria Station in 2015 for day 2 of a charter. This was the first DHR charter on the line since 2009. So we've gone past the slip, we've got it repaired, and this was the very first charter across the whole section for a 6-year gap. Next slide. Tindaria Station. Although it takes over an hour by train, the station is just 161 feet above the line you travelled on an hour earlier. While you were enjoying the scenery in years past, a runner would, I love this story, a runner, usually a young man, would take your food order and run straight up the hillside so that your meal was actually ready for you when you arrived at the station restaurant. It was a 2-story building at that time too. An earthquake damaged it severely and it was converted to a single-story building. Next slide. Another lost scene. This is just above Tindaria Station. In 2016-2018, I spent a lot of time checking sidings for the historical record of it and the books. And this was reported back to UNESCO team. The rubble in the centre marks the location of 3 sidings. And as far as I can tell, the track is still there, buried underneath all the rubble. But today there's the water tanks there. But these last couple of years, an electricity substation has also been built on the site. So the chance of these sidings ever being restored is long gone. But it's very sad because it was a wonderful sight to see a few wagons and a train going past the sidings. And I still think the sidings are part of the World Heritage recognition. Next slide. Above Tindaria, a spectacular view from the train, particularly if you're brave enough to look out of the window. Again, another picture that shows the scale of the train and the landscape, and a large part of the sheer magic of travelling this railway. Next slide. Reverse number 4, just below Agony Point. I use this picture because you cannot take good photographs of the loops now, the loops and reverses now, because the foliage has grown so high that you actually can't really see it. But this one shows a train coming up. It's going to go to the head shunt, reverse back over the link, go forward again and gain quite a large piece of height. This is a 1981 photograph taken by Roger West. And like I said, I like this one because it's a good example of showing viewers how the loops work. Next slide. This is just above, this is above Agony Point now. 788 has needed to stop for a blow up, which the locomotives unfortunately do have to do now. And this is still with 3 coaches a few years ago, about 2010. But sadly, they can now only haul 1. But there is hope. There's hope that we can get that sorted out. Racing along, next slide. This is just last year, picking up water from the water stop just above. Most of Darjeeling's water comes from this location, hence the tankers. Next slide. As I said earlier, looking through the window can be quite nail-biting for nervous passengers, but it is what makes this journey so exciting. But what I like, this does show that experience and training is vital. There is no way a broad gauge diesel driver could work this line. You need to have been born here, is my belief. You need to have a family history of working the railway. It takes the need for route knowledge to a whole new level. This needs a lifetime of knowledge to appreciate the dangers of running the DHR. You can't do this with 6 weeks training as you can on the main line. Next slide. Yeah, Bari in 2005. It was badly damaged by an arson attack during some strikes in the summer of 2017. Fortunately, it was quickly rebuilt. Now, we'll take a close look at the sign. Next slide. New signs appeared at the end of last year and were the inspiration of our current director, Mr. Rishabh Chowdhury, a man who I have great respect for. Each new station sign now reflects the local attractions, and they're all very, very attractive. A nice addition to the heritage site. Next slide. With a little imagination, the photo opportunities, again, are endless. This is near Gay Bari in 2011, doing a Darjeeling Tours photographic charter. The roadside hut is a little shop, and this particular picture was taken by another enthusiast, Nigel Atherton, who was the editor of What Digital Camera magazine. So the fame of the DHR really does spread. Next slide. Not far away from that little shop, chasing the train again, you get your driver to raise ahead of the locomotive, you jump out, you pick your spot, take the photograph and jump back in the car. It is tremendous fun. I don't believe it can be done anywhere else in the world because the DHR is essentially a tramway. It follows the road most of the way. Wonderful fun. Next slide. The 6th of the DHR's famous reverses. This illustrates very clearly how much height can be gained from a reverse. The little shot there is a bit regrettable. It stops the photograph. But in actual fact, with a bit of care, it can enhance your photographs. Now, next slide. As I said with the Tindari photograph, we don't have time to cover the landslips in this talk. But as an example, this is November 2016. And it's near the Jaswant Singh commemorative stone in the distance and the bridge. Now, when I first went through this area in 1999, next slide, that is the same site in 1999. We had to cross this section in a minibus, and believe me, the road was virtually non-existent. Quite how you get from that to a fully restored railway is still amazing, and huge credit to everybody involved in the Darjeeling Railway. To fix that in the short space that they do it in is absolutely remarkable. But equally remarkable is how quickly the landscape recovered. Nature takes over in that area remarkably fast. Next slide. You can see by the undulations of the track and the road, slips along the Pagladura section are very, very common. Next slide. Another slip. This is considered very minor and will most likely be cleared in a few hours. In the UK, it would probably close trains for a week. Next slide. Crossing the road again. It can get very misty on this side of the hills, but again, it adds to the mystery of the route. Next slide. I apologise for racing through these, but we do have to get the other people have to follow me with the talks. This is Kurseong Shed. It was closed for several years and has now been reopened as a running shed for refuelling both the steam locomotives and the diesels. Again, thanks to Mr. Chowdhury. Next slide. A quick view of the service train at Kurseong last year. Steam here is now only seen for special charters. So this is a normal service train, which, as most of us know, has to reverse out into the traffic to continue its journey up the hill. Next slide. A quick view of Kurseong Station. That's it over to the right-hand side. Viewed from above the local shed that you've just seen. The sidings here were completely cleaned out a few years ago. About 2011, they were cleaned and tidied up, but things have slipped again now, and they're getting recovered. Parking is difficult everywhere along the DHR line, and not much worse so than Kurseong itself. So the sidings are now used for parking cars. While they're not being needed, I can see the point, but it's part of the railway and it should never be allowed to be permanent. Next slide. A favourite view of mine, this was taken some years ago, about 2005. It's Kurseong pushing through the streets. I took the photograph from the top of a lorry carrying gas bottles, a very high lorry. I had a word with the driver and shimmied up the side of this thing and sat in the top to take this photograph. The late Terry Martin's actually in a window on a balcony to my left, and he took a rather lovely photograph of me perched on top of these gas canisters. Next slide. Which you should have. Sorry. You should have a watercolor of a train. Have we
Yes,
got? Yeah,
we've
okay,
got.
right.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, I
matching.
do.
Still matching.
I
Lovely.
think it's in the next one.
Should I go to the next one? No.
But
This is
next
the-
one, yeah, next slide. After the Kurseong, you should have the watercolor.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah, anyway, that's the painting, a watercolor painting of mine. Coming along the Hillcart Road. The painting, I'm very proud of the paintings. They are sold by Dash Studios, as I said earlier. And this was also used for Christmas cards for a railway children charity for fundraising. Next
This
slide.
one.
Next slide should be tongue. You should have a portrait photograph of tongue.
Next one.
Yeah. Portrait photograph. Just trying to make sure that you're matching where we are.
We're looking at the train.
Goom.
Yeah, we're looking at the Goom station.
Goom station. Yeah.
Yes.
Juked on ahead, I think. Just a second. Where have we got to?
Do you want me to go back?
We've missed a few, but don't worry, we're running out of time anyway. Goom station.
I
Right,
think this
okay,
is
good.
the previous edition of your
Oh, right, you got
presentation.
an earlier version. Oh, right, okay.
You missed. Yeah, you added a few more later.
Ah, right, okay.
Okay.
So you're on Goom Station now. I enjoy researching the history of this railway, and I knew there had been some changes here, but I was quite fascinated when I really discovered what had actually happened. Over to the left-hand side, right where the tree line is, there's a small car park now. There were two sidings there, so wagons were pushed across the road into the go sidings and the go down on the opposite side of the road, which I didn't realise until I wrote the up the line book. There's another side. There was another siding behind the white sign on the left of the locomotive, a short stub siding that wagons were parked in for offloading, and then there was a loop which came off the main line just behind the second coach, under the canopy, and came out and rejoined the main line. That was then truncated to a short siding until not that long ago. So the changes are more remarkable than you actually realise. And of course, over to the right-hand side where we have the museum, that was the site of the large go-down, which sadly was destroyed in the early 2000s. We'd just got UNESCO listing. It had just been awarded the World Heritage Site recognition, and the go-down was taken down and scrapped in 2000 because it was old. And the DHR was now a World Heritage Site, which I find both sad and amusing at the same time. Next slide.
Can we go for, yeah,
Now, what have we got now?
Ratasia.
Batasia, yeah, these locomotive at Batasia Loop. Okay.
Yeah.
NDM 6.
Yeah. Now that's a site that, a view that was always quite spectacular, but very difficult to get now. It's one of those views that it's a wonderful site now. It's so busy you would not believe the changes. There are markets and traders, and as many as 3 trains arriving at the same time. When the first one moves out, the second one moves up, and a third train comes in straight behind it, offloading its passengers for a 15 to 20 minute look around the site. Next slide. Now, are we still on Batasia?
Yeah, we are Batasia with the steam loco.
Yeah, I'm aware that you're looking at a slightly earlier version for some reason.
Yeah.
The markets,
Please continue.
Okay. The markets and crowds are good to see, but it is a lost viewpoint. Next slide.
Yeah. Now you
Freight
have a
charter.
Yeah,
Freight charter. If you look around the site, if you have time to look around the site, you can still get the classic mountains and the train, but you have to work a little bit harder now. Again, another steam charter with the freight wagons. Next slide. Back to the monastery. Yeah, back into the monastery again. Now it's done its work. We can see B class 788 drifting downhill the few last miles into Darjeeling. It's just a coasting down now. You can see the fire station on the right hand side in the centre there. Next slide. That should be a B class climbing up the hill. And next slide should be my sign at Darjeeling.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. they've been in place now for about 12 to 14 years. There's one at Sonada as well, which is rather nice. Now, I think that may bring you. Next slide is Darjeeling. Looking from the shed across the station, the panorama of the station.
Mm.
Okay. And next slide. Should be a rather attractive lady taking a selfie with a steam locomotive. Have we got that?
Yeah.
Okay. It's well worth spending time looking around the Darjeeling shed and the station. As a railway enthusiast, there's so much activity. And with the Joy trains now, it's an immensely busy place. In 2018, though, I was very surprised to find this group of younger Indian ladies taking such an interest in the shed. They were on a tour group of their own. And this was new. This was not just local enthusiasts, Indian enthusiasts taking photographs of trains. It was a ladies' group. And up to this point, this did not happen. Their guide this day was a very knowledgeable member of the Steam Railway Society, and he may be listening. But it shows the immense appeal that it has for tourists. An interest in transport is now growing, as you all know, is now growing in India as a hobby. Next slide.
The end.
Right.
Wonderful.
Okay. Now, sadly, there are a few missing, but that is because of a glitch in the technology. You couldn't see my presentation at the side. Okay. But timing-wise, 45 minutes. So I do apologise for the haste that we've got through that.
No, we will have your presentation on YouTube, so all of us can have a look at it.
I will share the later presentation.
Of course.
Lovely. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
David, it's been a wonderful presentation. You literally took us up the line to Darjeeling. And one of the rare things that we have today, or rare persons that we have today, is the owner of the railway, if I may say so, Rishabh Chaudhary, about whom you mentioned. Before we take the questions of the audience, I'd request Rishabh if he could spend a couple of minutes explaining the new initiatives that he's taken, and that will be wonderful. Are you there, Rishabh? Kindly unmute yourself.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And
thank you
so much.
2 or 3
Thank you
things
so much,
I'd
David.
like to flag. Can I make a flag 1 or 2 or 3 things? One is Siliguri town, of course. That pinches everybody, that we need to resurrect that. Second is, can we have more commuter trains? I know you've done a wonderful job this year by making the operational profits after maybe a decade or more. And so can we have more people walking up and down? Can it be back to a tramway? That is the second thing. And I would say, what about the Tindheria shed? These 3 questions came to my mind from the presentation. So the floor is yours. Please take 5 minutes. We are right now at 12:51, so 12:56 for you. Go ahead.
Right, sir. I hope I'm audible. So
Yes,
thank you so much,
absolutely.
sir. Thank you so much, David, for a wonderful presentation and for your kind
Thank you.
words. As far as the Siliguri town shed is concerned, or the majority of the DHR infrastructure, which is lying currently in not so good shape, I would like to inform the audience that we have plans for most of them, and we are currently working on a lot of them as well. One of the things that we have finalized is the Darjeeling station. The Darjeeling railway station will soon be in the shape that it was originally planned to be in. We are restoring it completely back to the 1940s, the time it was built. And as far as the Siliguri town station is concerned, so the model we are following is that, so we are having a DPR through a ASI, that is Archaeological Survey of India impaneled architect. So we have involved them. We are taking our time with the Siliguri town station because we do not want to do anything in haste. If we do something in haste and it doesn't work out in the long run, it will be again harmful and we will back to zero.
Very wise.
As David rightly pointed out, Siliguri town is a place which in which railways cannot and should not act alone. There are a lot of stakeholders which we should involve and we are involving, so that if the local stakeholders are there, I'm sure whatever change we plan or we do, it will remain there for quite a long time. As far as Tindharia shed is concerned, Tindharia shed, we are repurposing it as the MOH shop of the Tindharia workshop. That is the
Something went away. Hello, can you hear us?
We've lost the director for a short while.
Okay.
I think one of the things I was going to make while Richard comes back, one of the points I was going to make was that owning or being responsible for a World Heritage Site, it carries responsibilities. And if you don't want those responsibilities and the costs, you don't accept that accolade. And as we said earlier, under Richard, the DHR now has shown an operational profit, probably for the first time almost in living memory. So it shows that it can be done. But you've got the historical side to look after as well. And Richard, as I said, I'm a huge admirer of Richard. He has the attitude that we've been hoping to see in a director for many, many years. He appreciates the situation. He wanted the position, unlike many directors, in all fairness, who didn't want to live in that area. He wanted the position, and he's determined to make the changes that we all wanted to see. On Siliguri town station, which he was discussing before we lost him, it's a pity. I always think it's a pity that NFR decided to build a new station further down, because it could still have been used as the station building. If the platforms that we've got today, the new 2003 platforms, have been extended slightly further, you could have still used the station properly as a station. What we're left with now is a shell. Now, preserving shells as a World Heritage Site is not unusual. You've got Lucknow, you've got lots of other ruins that are preserved just for the fabric of it. In Britain, we've got many such sites, Roman sites and everything else. They're ruins. We've got monasteries that are ruins, but they're preserved in that condition. Now, the Siliguri town station could be cleaned, changed, restored, but not necessarily to be used at the moment, because we don't know what to use it for. And if you've got a preserved building, you've got to find a use for it. And
no, there are excuse me for interrupting,
Yeah.
but there are very positive signs now, because the local municipal corporation
Yes.
is also coming in together. So I'm sure we'll have a very good use, because unless we have a use of it, we will not be able to maintain it.
Exactly.
Now, one or two small questions which came in through the chat box. One is by Greet. Why is the train called toy train? What's your idea? Why should it be called toy train at all?
Well, I think it's a very cruel name, because it's a small train that does a very, very big, very serious and a very dangerous job. It's because it's the size of it.
But I think that name attracts everybody to Darjeeling.
It does.
Yeah.
But
So let's leave
but
it
of
at
course,
that.
when you see a broad gauge locomotive alongside a Darjeeling locomotive,
It is a toy train.
it's small.
Okay. One of our members, very active members, Manikandan Venkataraman, he's lauded your paintings and your photography, of course. He says, first of all, where can he get links for your paintings? That's one. You've already talked about the studio where it can be purchased. The prints can be purchased. You've been good enough to lend me your painting for my book. the cover of the book, and that's really doing well. Apart from that, he asked, can you speak about Terry Martin's book, Halfway to Heaven? Your
Oh,
experience.
The first one.
Yeah. The halfway to heaven.
It was the first comprehensive history of the railway that had ever been written, and Terry was his original job was a social security investigator. I've never been sure whether the job makes the man or the man is born for the job, but Terry was one of those people that used to get into detail with things. He was very pedantic. He was an investigator and he dug deep for this information. But it was a remarkable book at the time because it was the first one that ever covered a real in-depth history of it. I was involved closely with the maps. And this was this is 1997, 98, before GPS mapping and things like that. And we did the best we could with the maps, but they're all done by eye. They were done by walking the site, etc. But it's still a very beautiful book to have, is that one. It's actually quite rare.
Thanks a lot. Now that Rishabh is back, one last question to Rishabh. Mr. Anand, our very, very senior of us, he has asked what happened to the converted oil fire locos and the new loco which was built by the Golden Rock Workshop. Any inputs on that?
As far as the oil-fired locomotives are concerned, sir, I think the job that was done to them was neither here nor there. The oil-fired locomotives should have been level was unfortunately not up to the mark, due to which they did not work properly. So now we are trying again. First, our aim is to get a good B-class locomotive, then an A-class, then maybe a C-class, and then we'll get to an oil-fired one. But yeah, we aim to have all those locomotives back with us. I'll also like to inform the session of two very important things that have happened over the course of the last month. And Dharohar stands for Darjeeling Himalayan Academy for Railway Operations, Heritage and Research. This has been approved by Chairman Railway Board, and this will be set up. This will be a centralized heritage institute for all mountain railways and heritage sites of India at Kurseong, at the place of the old press building. So we are repurposing the old press building and making it into a world-class heritage institute. We are also in talks with UNESCO and other bodies which will help us in capacity building. The help we require from DHRS and others. I have also, you mentioned Manikandan. I have also Manikandan helped me connect with ASTT as well. So unfortunately, over the time, what has happened, we have lost a lot of our skill sets due to the reason being that not much of it was documented, right? So we have requested DHRS and ASTT and other organizations as well. If since we have brought one loco back from NRM, so if they could, repurpose or not exactly repurpose, but overhaul and better that locomotive, that will be a learning experience for our Tindharia guys.
Got your point.
Maybe a good
Sorry to interject, but we are really.
I understand.
If I would be allowed to intervene, I think the time is over now. We'll have to go on to the next talk.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you very much, David and Rishabh.
And now Rishabh, and I hand it over to Manoj for taking the conference forward. Thank you.